Now, a girl under the age of 15 gets married every 7 seconds. This is according to a new report by the charity Save the Children. It's predicted that in just over 30 years, there'll be more than 1 billion child brides. More than 700 million women in the world today were married before their 18th birthday. 1 out of 3 of them before they reach the age of 15. Girls affected by conflict, humanitarian crises and poverty are more likely to be married off when very young. The report says child marriage decreases girls' access to education and increases their health risks and vulnerability to violence. Sub-Saharan Africa and Bangladesh have the highest number of child brides. Let's get more on this story. We're joined by Patrick Watt in London. He's from Save the Children's Global Campaign. Many thanks for joining us, Patrick. Now, while this report isn't surprising, the fact that this is going on, the numbers were very surprising to me. Were you surprised by this report?
Well, we've known that child marriage is one of the single biggest reasons why girls don't have the same opportunities as boys. What we've seen, if you look at the global trends, is that in the last 15 to 20 years, there's been a narrowing of the gap in education and in other opportunities for children up to about the age of 12 or 13. But when girls reach adolescence, what we see is their opportunities starting to diverge in many countries from those of boys, particularly, as you say, in your introduction, in South Asia and in parts of Africa. And a lot of that is down to girls marrying. And what it means is that girls then drop out of school. It also exposes girls to a whole series of health risks, in particular health risks to do with pregnancy and childbirth. And what we're seeing are huge numbers of girls around the world becoming pregnant in their teens when their bodies aren't properly ready, and therefore being exposed to a much higher risk of dying in childbirth, but also their babies being exposed to a much higher risk of failing to survive through to their 5th birthday. So if we want to tackle getting children into school and learning, and we want to ensure that children survive, we really need to tackle this issue of child marriage.
But how do you tackle it? Because as you say in your report, one of the major problems is because of poverty and war. And how do you stop that from happening?
So this is a really complex social institution. You know, child marriage isn't something that can simply be addressed through one intervention. And we lay that out in the report that we've released today. But what we say is that there's a combination of things that need to take place. I mean, first of all, we do need in some countries for laws to be enacted, which, aside from anything else, send a signal about the importance of children being able to live out their childhoods fully before they marry. There are still countries like Yemen, for example, where 1/3 of girls are marrying before the age of 18, where there's no minimum law for girls' marriage. So there's a legal piece to the challenge, but this is an issue that can't be legislated out of existence. And there's lots of evidence that where you make schooling for girls compulsory, particularly up to the age of 16, that has a significant impact on the likelihood of girls staying in school. And when girls stay in school, they're much less likely to marry. There are lots of things that could be done to help poorer households. I mean, you say that poor households are more likely to marry off their daughters. Help poorer households to keep their children in school. And cash transfers to poor households in many places are showing promising results. But then we also do need to tackle the attitudes that often go along with child marriage. And we need to do that sensitively, and we need to do that in partnership with communities themselves. But I think a lot of the work that we're doing around the world, from India and Bangladesh to West Africa, shows that where you work with communities, including with men, you can begin to change attitudes.
Are there any countries that have had success stories at tackling this issue?
Well, there are countries that are reducing child marriage. I mean, in fact, the overall trend globally is downwards. The issue that we highlight in the report is that it's much too slow. So the UN adopted a series of sustainable development goals last year in New York, including a commitment to end child marriage by 2030. Now, on current trends, we're seeing a reduction of about 1% a year. If we want to get to that 2030 goal, we need to see a reduction of about 8%. So we need a rapid acceleration of progress in this area. Some of that progress has been made at the country level. So we've seen, countries like Tanzania, for example, like India, where within certain communities, certain localities, progress has been made. And often that is down to this combination of working with communities, improving the quality of essential services, but also using the law not in a punitive way, but using the law to send a clear signal about society's expectations of what it is to be a girl.
Patrick, many thanks for your time today. Patrick Watt from Save the Children's Global Campaign.